Hostility Part 3. Indeed. As for the restaurant, I just kept tabs on you after I heard about a ranger zapping the guards. I followed you here to surprise you and I accomplished that. Your face was priceless. By the way, do you need help with that? Freya pointed at his meal. Thanks, but no thanks. I'm a firm believer that it takes two to truly appreciate a chicken. The chicken in me, he replied while pulling the plate away from her fork. Always the gentleman, Freya pouted while ordering a smaller portion of what he had taken. Speaking of gentlemen, Count Sester called saying your guild harassed Xantia's citizens and that you've got some kind of divine retribution for it. That's rich. We harassed no one. Viscount Crame owns many magical workshops, mostly small stuff like enchanted home appliances and ornaments. Those jerks from the Church of the Six pestered his customers and his employees with their fanatical propaganda. We simply kept them away from private property, that's it. As for the divine retribution, the children of the Viscount got the griever, but my guild members are fine. Freya's gurgling stomach forced Lith to share his plate while she waited for her own. What can you tell me about the griever? Lith's professional curiosity was piqued. It's no illness, that's for sure. I suspect it's caused by something in the water, because all three of the Viscount's children presented weakened organs and random damage to the skin, but I never managed to identify what caused the phenomenon. Not even after it returned for the third time. Since those noble idiots seems to be unable to follow even the simplest orders, I had to give them a detail 24/7. Playing babysitter means my men can't protect all of the shops anymore, but since we still get paid in full, I'm fine with that. I'm sorry to bother you, Captain, but are you not going to introduce us to your new friend? Said a young woman in her early 20s. She had a pixie cut and a round face. She could have been considered cute, if not for her thick muscular build and square jaw. Coupled with her fierce eyes, they gave her a cold demeanor, like a disgruntled drill sergeant ready to dish out a punishment. He's no friend, Wyra, Freya said with a suave voice, while taking Lith's hand and threading her fingers through his. We've decided to marry. At those words, several mugs of beer shattered on the floor as many members of Freya's guild either dropped them or made them fall by standing up abruptly in disbelief. Seeing their bewildered expressions, Freya burst out in laughter, shocking them even more. She rarely showed her emotions to them. A mercenary guild was no charity, nor was it like the army. They followed her to make a profit, not because of honor and blind loyalty. They were all mages from minor academies or had graduated from the great ones yet failed to master any specialization. They were jacks of all trades, but without the means to make a living with magic. Freya knew they could leave her the moment they received a better offer or if they thought the mission was too risky. She trusted only the core members of her unit and kept the others at arm's length. She's joking, Lith said since Freya was still too busy crying from laughter. I'm Lith Verhan. Nice to meet you, Miss Wyra. Lith offered her his hand and she promptly shook it. It's an honor to meet you, sir. You're a beacon of hope for us mages of commoner origin. Wyra blushed while squeezing his hand with enough strength that she would have crushed it if not for Lith's enhanced body. Did they send you here for the griever? Xantia could use a great healer's expertise, said the red-headed man, making Freya angry. Hey, I resent that. I ranked second after him, both overall and in the light department. I'm a great healer too, she said while stabbing her chicken with anger. No, they didn't. I'm leaving the city after lunch. After meeting Freya's 10-men unit, Lith understood why Kyla didn't trust them to accompany her during her travels. Most of them were either trying to suck up to him or staring at him with envy or contempt. Only a few, like Wyra, were just trying to befriend him. Judging from Freya's expression, some of them are going to get kicked out of the guild as soon as their current mission is over. Lith thought after paying his bill and offering them a round of drinks. He tried to push open the door of the restaurant, yet it didn't budge. Only when the hardwood started to creak did it open, but a chilly wind slapped his face and big snowflakes entered the hallway. What the heck? Where did this storm come from? Lith asked the head waiter. From the sky, I guess. The weather changes often in the north. The man replied with a condescending tone, like he was talking to an ignorant kid. Lith ignored the waiter playing Captain Obvious and closed himself in the bathroom. After checking with life vision that no one was inside, he opened a warp gate leading as far as he could, using invigoration to boost the spell's strength. This is all too odd. First, they call me here for nothing and send me away despite there being an odd disease spreading. Then I meet Freya and I casually get stuck here because of a sudden snowstorm. Someone is playing with me, Lith thought. Yet despite Lith's full-blown paranoia, no matter how far the dimensional corridor went, wind and snow would always strike his face with so much strength that it was impossible to see further than 3 meters. You're right, clearly the sky spirits conspired against you, Solis chuckled, yet she checked as far as she could see with monosense, making sure the storm really was natural. Just to be safe. Damn it, this is even worse than I thought. This isn't my first snowstorm, but I always manage to spend them in the tower with you. What am I supposed to do until it blows over? Lith thought. Maybe spend some time with your old friend? Help the people of Xantia with the griever? You two have a lot of catching up to do. Freya was really happy about the snowstorm and offered Lith an accommodation as an honorary member of the Crystal Shield, her adventurers guild. Lith didn't miss that such position would put him under her command, but he accepted anyway. The Count is a nut job. He didn't want me setting foot inside the city. I doubt he would offer me a place to stay. This way I get a room, the opportunity to make up with Freya for not inviting her for my birthday, and I can take a look at the griever. When shit hits the fan, it would be up to me to fix that mess anyway. He inwardly sighed. Unfortunately, Viscount Crame didn't share Freya's enthusiasm. Another mouth to feed during winter is a burden, Lady Ernez. The Viscount said. He was a man in his late 40s, around 1.68 meters, 5 feet 6 inches, tall with thick black hair and a finely trimmed goatee. Hostility Part 4. Everything about his appearance spoke of order and control. He was wearing a perfectly ironed black suit that didn't show a single wrinkle despite having been used for half day. Not a single hair on his head was out of place. Every one of his movements was slow and calculated. His stern expression was reinforced by his gold-rimmed glasses, which made his calculative gaze look cruel rather than wise. Your guild is doing an excellent job. I don't see why I should welcome this man into my home. I'm sure there are plenty of free rooms in the city's hotels and that he can afford to pay for his meals. Crame only spoke to Freya, ignoring everyone else. Wow, this guy is as stingy as you are, Solus thought. Both her and Lith were surprised at being treated like that. It was the second time in a single day that someone had looked down on him. Your lordship, Lord Verhan is an excellent healer and the ranger in charge of the Keller region. I'm sure you realize that his presence can be of great help. The snowstorm could isolate the city, if not even your mansion, for days. Freya said. You are an excellent healer, Lady Ernez. Why would I need to? Besides, I doubt he can be of any use. No truly talented and sane man would ever work as a civil servant. It still has the word, servant, in it and proves a lack of ambition. What about my mother and my father, then? Freya hated to use her parents' names. The whole point of leading a mercenary guild was building her career outside of her family. Yet the sane part prevented her from using Minoar as a model. Please, the Viscount scoffed at her naive attempt of manipulation. Your mother chose a noble career that allows her to uphold and influence the law. She protects us from the scum of the earth. Your father's talent is bottomless. He is an archduke, a warrior, a forge master, and a leader of the Night Guard. This man, instead, took the job of a watchdog with no further career path. Rangers usually drop out of the army or drop dead. He's barely more than a vagrant with 100 masters, and as soon as the winter lockdown ends, I'll be one of them. Now please get out of my office. I have work to do. What a dick. I'm sorry, Lith, Freya said after they left the Viscount's office. Follow me, I'll show you your accommodations. Didn't he just say that I'm not welcome? Yeah, but he never said no either. I know the type. If I take you in as my guest, he'll never dare to complain to my face. You've changed a lot, you know? The old Lith would have glared at Crame until he pissed his pants. Freya looked at him with curiosity. That's unfair. If I killed every single noble that treated me rudely, I'd have been called the new Balcor for years by now. I don't care what Crame says. He's just an irrelevant road bump on my path, Lith replied. I wouldn't be so sure. He's using the events caused by the Church of the Six to get Count Sester removed and become the next city lord. He's likely to succeed if you ask me. What events? The Griever is not a plague and a few nutjobs aren't enough to dispose of a loyal servant of the crown. You would be right, if Sester was competent. Ever since he joined the Church of the Six, those fanatics have harassed every mage of the city. They say that magic is an insult to the gods and all that crap. Freya said. What? That's enough to outlaw such a religion. Harming mages is a serious crime. Why has no one contacted the army or the Mage Association about this? Because the city is split into two factions. One follows the church's dogmas and wants to kick mages out of the city. The other one is collecting evidence to get rid of their opponents and seize their properties. Neither faction wants to involve the army. It would ruin their plans. Freya said. Then why did the Count call me? Wasn't that shooting himself in the foot? Beats me. Maybe he really has gone mad. Freya shrugged as she opened the door of Lith's room. It was barely bigger than a storage room, with just enough space for a bed and a wardrobe. Sorry to give you the worst room, but it's all that's left. Don't worry, I've been in worse places. Lith lied. The only reason he had accepted staying there was to keep an eye on her. The situation in the city was too odd, and Lith had noticed how Freya was on edge while dealing with some of her guild members. Damn, I can't leave the city during the snowstorm. The army locates my position every time I make a report and a single warp steps only crosses about 10 kilometers, 6.2 miles. I can reach a mana geyser with it, but for a normal mage it would be suicidal. Now that I have a better understanding of the situation, I might as well play ball. As soon as he was alone, Lith called his handler and explained everything to her. My assessment is that Count Sester is insane or being manipulated, while Viscount Crame is willing to exploit the chaos that will ensue as the conflicts escalate to further his political agenda. Lith said. Agreed. I'll contact my superiors and let you know their decision. Until then, investigate this Church of the Six and the Griever. If your friend is right about the means of contagion, then Xantia could be the rehearsal for something bigger. Gods, I'll never understand why people are willing to hurt those closest to them for the pettiest reasons. Camilla's voice was so sad that Lith understood she wasn't talking about Xantia, but rather about herself. He called her on her civilian amulet immediately after ending the call. He had recognized the hologram's background as her home, so there was no risk of interrupting her job with his paranoia. Cammy, are you alright? Lith said, noticing she was crying, which made him sick with worry. It's just a rough moment for me. Everything is fine. Those words made Lith shiver. In his experience, when a woman said those 3 words, they were usually a lie. No, it's not. Yesterday you were in a bad mood, then you behaved oddly during lunch, and now this? Cammy, if you don't talk to me, I don't know what to do. He said. At the mention of lunch, she laughed amid the tears. I was perfectly normal at lunch, silly. I'm just on a diet and couldn't stand watching you eat while I starved. She chuckled. But you were right about the rest, I'm not fine. I went to visit my sister and seeing her like that broke my heart. I don't know if I can save her anymore. I feel so helpless that it's driving me crazy. Lith didn't understand much from her rambling, but he let her talk and cry as long as she needed to. Seeing her breaking apart like that hurt him deeply. Camilla always smiled and she always had a nice word for Lith, turning his perpetual frown upside down. He wanted to drop everything and run back to Bellius just to embrace her. Is there anything I can do? It was all he could say when she was done talking. No, but thanks for the offer. I'll explain everything to you once you get back. I promise that the second time it will make sense. She chuckled. Thanks for listening to me. I feel much better now. Don't worry, you did nothing wrong. This time, she laughed harder, making him smile.